Hi all. எப்படி இருக்கீங்க எல்லாரும்? Like how was everything? இன்னைக்கு ஒரு ரொம்பவே இன்ட்ரெஸ்டிங் ஆன எஸ் ஹாய் வந்துட்டீங்களா? Oh wow, that's awesome. And few people called me and said that the story is quite interesting. I'm very happy. Thank you so much for all your response. Today we have some remaining chapters in chapter 2, remaining episodes in chapter 2, Sita's Sister by Kavita K. ஓகே, இப்போ நான் ஸ்டார்ட் பண்ணுறேன். ரொம்ப ரொம்ப இன்ட்ரெஸ்டிங்காக இருக்கும். நல்லா கவனிங்க. ஹாய் 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 ஆல். Scene 3. The dawn was soft and pink, leisurely changing into flaming yellow and oranges as the sun rose late into the winter sky. Madhavi and Kirti were surprised to see Urmila accompanying them to the temple and insisted on knowing the reason. Urmila could not think of a quick retort or a reply that would assuage the collective curiosity of her probing cousins. Getting rid of my sense, Urmila murmured tactfully. How did you get religious suddenly? Mandavi demanded. You are more the free thinker. Who doesn't believe in rituals and rites? Or is it that you have caught Sita's fever of searching for a groom? Sita colored a delicate pink. That's a downright tasteless remark, blustered Urmila. Mandavi grinned wickedly. In fact, I think all the three of us should pray for the most suitable husband from henceforth. After Sita, we will be quick reckoning. The early morning prayers and Aarti done, the four girls collected the prasad and started to walk back to the palace. Running down the temple steps, trying to warm herself against the morning chill, Urmila started walking briskly through the fragrant flower-laden garden. She stopped abruptly when she heard Sita gasp softly beside her. She looked up, and there they were, standing tall, still, and silhouetted against the fast-rising sun, as if they too were waiting for them to come into full view. And Urmila realized why Sita had been feeling guilty. There was a strong grace of stealth and furtive anticipation at each step, which got them closer to the two waiting youths. Oh, there are the two princes of Ayodhya, Kirti exclaimed animatedly. Hush, Mandavi whispered furiously. Oblivious of the sotto voce exchange of words behind her, Urmila was more keen on observing Sita's expressions. She had faltered and fallen back, her head lowered, drawing the shot closer. Urmila realized she was leading the pack with her sisters and the retinue of maids trailing her. Now, it was up to her to either ignore them or walk past, but that would be blatantly discourteous. The other alternative was to stop and greet them. She decided upon the latter. The two young men were already bowing their heads folded together in salutation. She did the same and hoped the girls behind her were doing the same as well. Greetings, welcome to Mithila, she said politely. I am Urmila, and here are my cousins Mandavi and Kirti, and my sister Sita. Greetings to you ladies, Prince Ram said softly and smiled. And good morning again, oh Princess of Mithila. he said, looking straight at Sita. Urmila could almost hear Sita's heart breaking with joy. And Ram, and this is my younger brother, Lakshman. Urmila glanced swiftly at him in polite acknowledgement. The other man bowed stiffly, and unlike his brother, his face was immobile, frozen in cold hot. I had heard Mithila was one of the most beautiful cities of the country, but I refused to believe that there could be a city prettier than our lovely Ayodhya. But I was wrong. Mithila is beautiful, and so are the people. And the kind hospitality of the king and the queen, he said pointedly with a gracious smile. It was not mere polite conversation or idle small talk. He was praising Mithila with genuine conviction. His charm did not ring false, and his easy, affable sincerity was heartwarming. Ram was as handsome as he was renowned to be, tall and athletic. A bow or a sword would have become a statue more than the basket of flowers he was carrying right now. Yet he did not appear ludicrous, carrying it with an easy grace and dexterity. However, one could not say the same about his brother. Lakshman stood rigid and unsmiling as the short conversation flowed between Ram and her. He looked distinctly impatient, his lips curled in slight annoyance. He was tall as Ram, slimmer and more lithe and unbelievably handsome in a craggy way, but without the likable, pleasing good looks of his elder brother. He had a satin and chiseled face with a thin, crooked nose and deep, smoldering eyes. But the perpetual glowing frown marred his handsomeness. He stood taut and wired, as if ready to spring at the slightest pretext. He suddenly looked at her with his dark, piercing eyes, and she felt herself go warm, then cold. It was not his eyes, darkly luminous and jet black, but it was the rigor. His gaze seemed to go right through the bone. Urmila shivered. What a decidedly odd, unlikely pair. She saw he was bowing still again, as if to get away from the chatter as fast as he could. She bowed her head, her eyes frosty, and turned away from the two brothers. But not before she caught a look being exchanged between Sita and Ram. Urmila took her sister's arm and pulled her away, and the four girls continued their way back to the palace. They walked in discreet silence, hesitant to walk in the presence of the whispering maids. The moment they were in the safe confines of the inner chamber, the mood altered noisily. So that was the reason for your unusual presence at the temple? You wanted to meet the princess? Mandavi accused Urmila. Urmila bristled. The encounter with the younger prince had left her in a decidedly volatile mood, and Mandavi's comment fueled the fire within her. But before she could explode, Sita came swiftly to her rescue. It was I who dragged her out. I didn't want to go to the temple alone. I wasn't sure if the two of you would wake up on time, as you slept late last night looking at the wedding feast menu. Sita explained smoothly. Urmila was reassured, but just, just for a short while. Presumed innocent, riposted Mandavi sweetly. But thus we got to meet the young princes at last. They are both fine looking, she passed dramatically. But did you happen to notice it too, Kirti, that there was this um, little something unfurling right under our noses, and our sisters here actually believe we didn't notice anything amiss. There lingered a silence in the room, with each expecting the other to start talking. Finally, Sita broke the uncomfortable stillness, stifling the room. Uh, I really don't think I want to confer about the princess, she said stiltedly. The fact that they are still here makes it clear that they have been invited by father for my swayamvar. This means they are my suitors. So it's best I do not discuss them. She enunciated each word with a certain forcefulness uncharacteristic of her. But she laced it so beautifully with dignity and elegance that they were shorn of any aggressiveness. That was the magic Sita had, Urmila thought, marveling at her sister's composure when she knew she was breaking from within. She watched her quietly leave the room, leaving a trail of another painful silence. What's with her? Asked Kirti quietly. And Urmi, please don't tell us it is prenuptial nerves. Besides, Sita is too composed and well behaved to throw tantrums. Urmila remained silent, her lips thick in a stubborn line. She would not talk for Sita. Mandavi immediately recognized her role. Don't say it, Urmi, she said. But I think I know what Sita is going through. She is clearly upset about the wedding, and her feelings we shall not improve. If she wants to confide in us, she will. She will, but only to Urmi, nodded Kirti astutely. So that's that, Mandavi commented dryly. So that's not that, retorted her younger sister. I'm sure we shall meet the two princes again on our way to the temple tomorrow. So, is Sita planning to stop visiting the temple till her wedding day? Urmila knew the reply to Kirti's sardonic question, but she had no answer to the uneasy feelings kindled at the very mention of the word princess. At that one prince in particular with his intense blazing eyes. Sita was in a worse state than the last time when they had a similar conversation. But this time, Urmila had a private fear to deal with too, and it would take an effort on her part not to reveal her feelings to her sister. But the spade was, Urmila thought with dry humor, that now she just might be able to identify with her sister better in their common emotional affection. Sita, anyway, had worked herself into such a state that she would not have noticed her younger sister's turmoil. Did the others guess? She asked frantically the moment Urmila stepped inside the room. Did you tell them anything? I think they are getting a fair idea. Urmila started slowly, and they will eventually make an intelligent inference. But I assure you, I haven't and will not divulge anything, she promised. I know you won't. You are so fiercely loyal and honorable. but right now my feelings are neither, and I hate myself for being so transparent about it, cried Sita. But with each passing day, I so dread the day of my Swayamvar. I have fallen in love with a man whom I know nothing about. And what if I were to marry some other stranger who manages to lift that heavy bow? I tremble at the thought. How can I marry some man when I love another? Is that why you are getting so hysterical with worry? Urmila laughed dismissively and went up to her older sister. Now, listen to me carefully. The man you have fallen in love with at first sight is no stranger. He is the Prince of Ayodhya, and the world is singing praises of his feats, his valor, his goodness, and his good looks, of course. She teased, hoping to bring a smile on her sister's worried face. Sita dimpled engagingly. Think clearly, Sita. There must be a reason why Rishi Vishwamitra got him to Mithila. And now, since he has been invited to stay on for your Swayamvar, I am sure he is the suitor who will win your hand. He is the one who will break that bow. He is your princess. You see, will he be mine? Sita smiled tremulously. Will your words really come true? I don't know what I will do if... Shh! Urmila placated her older sister reassuringly. My words will come true. You will watch them happen. So, enjoy this day and the days to come. They are going to be the best. Urmila noticed her words were having the desired effect on Sita. She looked a lot calmer. Urmila was taken aback when a pair of slim arms were flung around her, and she was folded in a close embrace. Sita was rarely effusive about her feelings, and she never cried. Oh, Urmi, what will I do without you? Sobbed Sita, the words flowing as swiftly as the tears down her cheeks. You have an answer for everything. Sita could not go on as the enormity of the circumstances slowly dawned on her. For the first time, she was aware of a new harsh reality, that she would be separated from her younger sister and she would be leaving us soon for a different world. Urmila might have been the younger sister, younger just by a year, but for Sita, she was her anchor who secured her to a comforting veracity of her own existence. Urmila was her lifeline. She was her soulmate. As their adopted daughter, Janak and Sunaina had fawned on Sita to the point of being slavish. She had been embarrassed by it, squirming uneasily at the gratuitous affection lavished unduly upon her. Her upbringing had not been normal. She could not recall a single instance when she had been scolded or frowned upon. Urmila had suffered all of that and take it with a brave smile on a trembling chin. Sita had been hailed as Janaki, Janak's daughter, when it was Urmila who was his daughter and the sole proprietor of that name. Sita was Maithili, the princess of Mithila, when it was Urmila who should have been crowned with that title. But never had Sita seen Urmila resentful about all the favors showered upon her when she was deprived of them. Sita had never dared to discuss this with Urmila, as she might not have liked it. She had kept quiet and taken in all the outpouring of love and adoration without letting anyone know how she felt. That it still did not make her one of their own. It left her instead feeling like an outsider. She could never forget that she was a foundling and that she was indebted to them forever. That feeling of obligation was enormous, a burden she silently carried and could never shrug off. However, Sita could not remember even one instance when either her parents or her sisters had never made her feel unloved. Instead, by bestowing too much, they had made her feel too special. All of them but Urmila. She was the only one who treated Sita normally, like a sister would another. Urmila had screamed at her, pulled her hair, pinched her, argued bitterly, and each time it had been Urmila who had earned the ire of her parents. Praise was reserved for Sita, though it was invariably Urmila who picked up the Vedic verses more quickly than her sisters. Sita recalled each of these moments and they made her angry. All of them had been undeniably unfair on her younger sister. Her younger sister. Sita repeated the words in her mind with renewed fondness. Urmila had always been the veritable older sister all through the growing years. Strong, fiercely protective like her. Tigress shielding her from everything, guiding her, helping her, consoling her. Her parents' love had been smothering, and the sweetest memory she carried was of her younger sister. Each tender gesture was like a picture painted lovingly in her mind. Urmila hugging her tightly each night before going to sleep to dispel her nightmares. Kissing her tears away when she had fallen from a branch or, like this moment, trying to show her a better world than she could ever imagine. Sita wondered in sudden despair how she would be able to disengage herself from her sister's comforting existence, her rooted reality which she would have to extricate herself from. Urmila was close to tears herself, but she kept them in check, refusing to crumble. Sita suddenly seemed to have realized the enormity of the situation, but for Urmila, her sister's impending marriage had been a torturous thought, an unpleasant eventuality. Her sister was going to get married. She couldn't find herself feeling gorgeously happy about it. That dull ache in her heart would not let go of her. The thought of parting was more excruciating than the happiness of the occasion. Was she being selfish? No. She was just so dejected. Urmila quickly self-analyzed. She was having an agonizingly bittersweet time. Excited yet secretly sorrowful while she prepared for her sister's grand wedding. But the presence of the intruding prince was mercifully distracting. For 5 successive days, it happened the way Katie had shrewdly envisioned. They kept meeting the two princes at the garden each morning. But conversation expanded into nothingness, filled instead with the customary silent greeting and cursory smiles and evocative looks. Each time Ram smiled, Sita bowed her head to hide the rising color. Was it bareness? Was it bashfulness, discomfiture, or plain guilt of the secret love she harbored for this man? Urmila was feeling similarly wretched. She tried to hide the awkwardness by bowing her head lower in courtesy, but each time she hated herself for trying to steal a furtive glance at the younger brother. And each time she found his hard eyes on her, his open, unblinking gaze washing her in a flood of mixed emotions. Urmila was proud of the fact that she was not shy, but she found her nerves suddenly failing her and the intended words freezing in her mouth. She felt her throat and mouth go dry and the tongue instinctively moving sensuously on the parched lips. What was she doing? She thought desperately, watching his expressions change. Her face flaming, she moved away, turning her face from him and from a new, overpowering reality she was finding difficult to assimilate. She felt a reassuring grip on her upper arm. She turned to meet Mandavi's steady gaze. She knew, isn't Prince Ram wonderful? He's so kind and courteous, gushed one of the maids. Yes, but why does the younger prince frown constantly? He seems to be always angry and scowling, giggled another. Mandavi's stern look silenced their chatter immediately and forbade further talk. Urmila could feel his eyes boring into a retreating figure, and she felt a frenzied urge to turn around and look at him. But she did not. She found herself waiting for the next morning to see him again. Finally, we did with the chapter 2, The Two Princesses. As usual, இப்போ தமிழ்ல படிக்க போறேன். அதுக்கு முன்னாடி hi to all. Hi. தமிழ், it's nice. சீதா முந்தின நாள் கேட்ட மாதிரியே ஊர்மிளாவும் சீதா கூட கோவிலுக்கு போனாங்க. மாண்டவிக்கும் கீர்த்திக்கும் ரொம்ப பெரிய அதிர்ச்சி. அந்த அதிர்ச்சியை அவங்க கிட்ட பாக்குறதுக்குள்ள ஊர்மிளாவுக்கு நம்ம என்ன சொல்றதுன்னு தெரியாம அச்சச்சோ மாட்டிக்கிட்டோமே அப்படின்ற மாதிரி ஒரு உணர்வு ஏற்பட்டுச்சு. மாண்டவி உடனே, ஊர்மிளா, நீயா இங்க வந்திருக்க? நீயா கோவிலுக்கு வந்திருக்க? உனக்குதான் இதுலலாம் நம்பிக்கை இல்லையே. ஒருவேளை நீயும் சீதாவுக்கு சேர்த்து வேண்டிக்கிறதுக்காக வந்தியா? உடனே மாண்டவி, ஆமாமா, நாமளும் இனிமே ஒரு நல்ல புருஷன் கிடைக்கணும்னு வேண்ட வேண்டியதுதான். ஏன்னா சீதாவுக்கு கல்யாணம் முடிஞ்ச உடனே நமக்கும் அடுத்தபடியா கல்யாணம் ஆக போகுது இல்லையா? அதனால நாமளும் கடவுள்கிட்ட நல்லாவே வேண்டிக்கணும். பூஜை முடிஞ்சிருச்சு. பூஜை முடிஞ்சு கோயிலிருந்து திரும்பி அவங்க அரண்மனைக்கு போகும்போது ராம், லக்ஷ்மண் இந்த 2 இளவரசர்களும் நின்றுட்டு இருக்காங்க. சீதா அவங்கள பார்த்துட்டாங்க, ஊர்மிளாவும் பார்த்துட்டாங்க. ஆனா சீதாவுக்கு ஏதோ ஒரு வித தயக்கம். என்னன்னா, பின்னாடி தங்கச்சிங்கெல்லாம் வராங்க, அவங்களுக்கு பின்னாடி நம்முடைய பணிப்பெண்கள்லாம் வராங்க. இவங்க முன்னாடி நாம் எதையாவது கொஞ்சம் வெட்கப்பட்டுருவோமோ, வேண்டாம் நம்ம போயிடலாம் அப்படின்னு நினைக்கிறாங்க. அதே சமயம் இல்லை அப்படி போகிறது அது சரியாக இருக்காது அப்படின்னு நினைக்கிறாங்க. உடனே அதுக்குள்ள அந்த 2 இளவரசர்களும் முன்னாடி வராங்க. வந்து வணக்கம் சொல்கிறாங்க. உடனே ஊர்மிளாவும், வணக்கம், நான் தான் ஊர்மிளா. இவங்க 2 பேரும் என்னுடைய தங்கைகள், கீர்த்தி, மாண்டவி. இவங்க என்னுடைய அக்கா, மித்ராவுடைய இளவரசி இளையராணி சீதா. உடனே ராம், வணக்கம் இளவரசிகளே அப்படின்னு எல்லாரையும் பார்த்து சொல்றாரு. அதே மாதிரி வணக்கம் இளவரசி சீதா அப்படின்னு சீதாவையும் பார்த்து அழகா சொல்றாரு. உடனே ராம் தன்னுடைய தம்பியை காட்டி, இவர்தான் என்னுடைய தம்பி லக்ஷ்மண் சொல்றாரு. ராம பாக்குறதுக்கு ரொம்பவே அழகா இருக்காரு, உயரமா கம்பீரமான தோட்டத்தோட. லக்ஷ்மணுடைய பார்வை ஊர்மிளாவுக்கு ஏதோ ஒரு காதல் வெப்பத்தை ஏற்படுத்துச்சு. அவங்களால என்ன சொல்றதுனே தெரியல. எதுவும் சொல்லிக்காம உடனே அரண்மனைக்குள்ள வந்துட்டாங்க. அரண்மனைக்குள்ள நுழைற வரைக்கும் இவங்க யாரும் வாயை திறக்கவே இல்லை. ஏன் பின்னாடி பணிப்பெண்கள் வந்துகிட்டு இருக்காங்களே. அரண்மனைக்கு வந்த உடனே பேச ஆரம்பிச்சுட்டாங்க. மாண்டவியும் சுதா கீர்த்தியும், ஒருவேளை ஊர்மிளா கோயிலுக்கு வந்தது இந்த இளவரசர்களை பார்க்கதானோ என்னவோ அப்படின்னு சொல்றதுக்குள்ள சீதா உடனே தடுத்து, இல்ல இல்ல நான் தான் கோவிலுக்கு தனியா போறதுக்கு கொஞ்சம் தயங்கிட்டு ஊர்மிளாவையும் என் கூட வர சொன்னேன். நீங்க தான் நேற்று ராத்திரி லேட்டா தூங்குனீங்க, அதனால உங்களை எப்படி கூப்பிடுறதுன்னு யோசிச்சேன். அதனாலதான் ஊர்மிளாவை கூட்டிட்டு போனேன், மற்றபடி அவ மேல எந்த ஒரு தப்பும் இல்லை அப்படின்னு சொன்னேன். உடனே சொல்லிட்டு உள்ள போயிட்டாங்க. ஆனா மாண்டவியும் சுதா கீர்த்தியும் பேச ஆரம்பிச்சுட்டாங்க. என்னன்னா, நம்ம ரெண்டு அக்காக்களுக்கும் ஒன்றும் புரியல, நமக்கு ஏதோ ஒரு விஷயம் அவங்கள பத்தி புரிஞ்சிருச்சு, அது அவங்களுக்கு தெரியலன்னு அவங்க நினைச்சிட்டு இருக்காங்க போல, இருக்கட்டுமே அப்படின்னு. உடனே ஊர்மிளா தனக்கு ஏற்பட்டிருக்க ஏதோ ஒரு உணர்வை வெளிப்படுத்த முடியாம எதுவுமே பேசாம, இதை பாரு சீதா எதுவா இருந்தாலும் அப்புறம் சொல்லுவா, அவளை கொஞ்சம் தனிமையில விடுறது பெட்டர், இந்த மாதிரி அவளை நம்ம வந்து ஃபோர்ஸ் பண்ணக்கூடாது அப்படின்னு சொல்லிட்டாங்க. சரி, ஊர்மிளா சீதாவோட அறைக்குள்ள போறாங்க. போயிட்டு ஊர்மிளா கிட்ட சீதா, ஒருவேளை நம்ம தங்கைகளுக்கு எல்லாம் தெரிஞ்சிருக்குமோ, மற்றவர்களுக்கு எல்லாம் தெரிஞ்சிருக்குமோ, கண்டுபிடிச்சிருப்பாங்களோ, என்ன கண்டுபிடிச்சிருப்பாங்க, நான் பண்றது சரியா, இல்லை ஒரே வாரத்துல என்னுடைய சுயம்பரம் நடக்க போகுது, ஆனா எந்த நேரத்துல வேறொருத்தர்கிட்ட என்னுடைய மனசை பறி கொடுத்துட்டேனே, இப்போ வேற ஒருத்தர் வந்து அந்த அந்த பில்ல உடைச்சிட்டாருன்னா அப்ப அவரை நான் கல்யாணம் பண்ணிக்க வேண்டியதாயிடுமே, எப்படி ஒருத்தரை நினைச்சிட்டு இன்னொருத்தர் கல்யாணம் பண்ணிக்க முடியும், எனக்கு ஒரே குழப்பமா இருக்கே, நான் என்ன பண்றது அப்படின்னு கேட்டாங்க. உடனே ஊர்மிளா, இந்த பார், எதுக்காக இப்படி தயங்குற, நீ சந்திச்சவர் இனிமே வேற யாரோ கிடையாது, இனிமே அவர் தான் உனக்கு, அவர் வந்து சாதாரணப்பட்டவர் கிடையாது, அயோத்தியாவுடைய இளவரசர் ராம், அவரை பத்தி உலகமே புகழ்ந்து பேசிக்கிட்டு இருக்கு, நீ இப்படி பேசிக்கிட்டு இருக்கியே, எப்பா எனக்கு உன் மனசை நீ அவர்கிட்ட பறி கொடுத்துட்டியோ, அப்பவே அவர் உனக்கு தான், எனக்கு தெரிஞ்சு அவர் இங்க இருக்காருன்னா கண்டிப்பா அந்த சுயம்பரத்துக்காக தான் இருக்கும், என்னுடைய யுகம் மட்டும் கரெக்டா இருந்துச்சுன்னா கண்டிப்பா அவர் தான் வில்ல உடைப்பாரு, உன்னுடைய கைய பிடிப்பாரு, அதனால அவர் தான் உன்னுடைய ராஜான்னு நினைச்சுக்கோ அப்படின்னு சொல்லிட்டார். உண்மையாவா, அவர் எனக்கா அப்படின்னு சீதா சொல்ல, ஆமா கண்டிப்பா உன்னுடைய வார்த்தை நடக்குமா, கண்டிப்பா நடக்கும், நான் சொல்றேன்ல நீ தைரியமா இரு, கண்டிப்பா நான் சொல்ற மாதிரிதான் நடக்கும், உன்னுடைய அவர் உனக்கு மட்டும்தான் அப்படின்னு சொல்றாங்க. ஊர்மிளாவை பத்தின எண்ணங்கள் சீதாவுக்கு இன்னும் மேலும் எந்த மாதிரி பொண்ணு, சின்ன வயசுல இருந்து எனக்காகவே இவ்வளோ திட்டுகளை வாங்கியிருக்கா, ஜானகி, ஜனகர் மகள் ஜானகி, இந்த பட்டம் எனக்கா கிடைக்கணும், முறைப்படி ஊர்மிளாவுக்குள்ள கிடைச்சிருக்கணும், மைத்திலி, மிதிலாவுடைய ராணி மைத்திலி, இந்த பட்டமும் எனக்கா கிடைக்கணும், அது ஊர்மிளாவுக்குள்ள கிடைக்கணும், இதெல்லாம் விட்டு கொடுத்துட்டா. ஆனா என்னைக்காவது ஒரு நாள் என்னை வேற மாதிரி நினைச்சிருப்பாங்க, நான் தத்தெடுக்கப்பட்ட பொண்ணுதானே, இந்த குடும்பத்துல யாராவது என்னை பத்தி நினைச்சிருப்பாங்களா, எல்லாரும் வந்து என்ன தாங்கன்னு தாங்கினாங்க, என்ன ஒரு தெய்வ குழந்தையா பார்த்தாங்க, ஆனா ஊர்மிளா மட்டும்தான் என்ன ஒரு சகோதரியா பார்த்தா, என்ன எப்பவுமே வந்து நான் அழுதா என் கண்ணை தொடச்சு விடுவா, எனக்கு எப்பவுமே பக்க பலமா இருந்தா, என் தோழிங்கிறத விட அவதான் எனக்கு எல்லாமே அப்படின்னு நினைச்சா. இந்த மாதிரி நினைச்சுக்கிட்டு இருக்கும் போதே அடுத்த நாளும் வந்துச்சு. அடுத்த 5 நாட்கள் இதே மாதிரிதான் நடந்துச்சு. இந்த 2 இளவரசர்களும் சீதா, ஊர்மிளா இவங்கெல்லாம் பேசுவாங்கன்னு மற்ற 2 தங்கச்சிங்களும் நினைச்சாங்க. ஆனா ஏங்க, ஒருத்தருக்கு ஒருத்தர் வணக்கம் சொல்றதும், அவரை பார்த்து இவங்க தலை குனியறதும் அவங்களுடைய பார்வைகளை பரிமாறிக்கிறதும் இப்படிதான் இந்த 5 நாளும் போய்கிட்டு இருந்தது. இந்த பார்வை பரிமாற்றம் நடந்து கொண்டே இருந்தது. சரி, நெக்ஸ்ட் சாப்டர் ரொம்ப இன்ட்ரெஸ்டிங்கான சாப்டர், ஸ்வயம்வர். இதுதான் நாளையுடைய சாப்டர். Tomorrow's chapter is going to be very, very interesting, and stay tuned with me to follow this story. It's very interesting because we all know about Ramayana, but very few of us know about Urmila, Lakshman's wife Urmila. Urmila உடைய மனசு, லக்ஷ்மணன் காட்டுக்கு போன உடனே ஊர்மிளாவுடைய மனசு எப்படி இருந்துச்சு, அவங்களுடைய நிலை என்ன அப்படிங்கிறத தெரிஞ்சுக்கணும்னா கண்டிப்பாக இந்த ஸ்டோரியை நம்ம லிசன் பண்ண தான் நமக்கு வேணும். அஃப்கோர்ஸ் திஸ் இஸ் அ பியூட்டிஃபுல் ஸ்டோரி. Why are you reading for us? Yeah, of course, it's a good question. See, everyone cannot afford to buy this book. At the same time, we all are interested to know the story. At the same time, many of us don't find enough time to read the whole book. At the same time, we all have a listening capacity. We can listen and see. If someone narrates it, for sure, it's very easy to follow it. That's why I'm reading for you all. ஏன் கூட நீங்களும் சேர்ந்து படிக்கலாம். It's quite interesting. It's an interesting novel. I really loved it. It really inspired me. So better follow the story. கண்டிப்பா இந்த ஸ்டோரி நம்ம லைஃப்லயும் நிறைய மிராக்கிள் பண்ணலாம். இட்ஸ் அ பாசிட்டிவ் ஸ்டோரி. ஓகே தென், hi all. Okay, fine. ஷா கண்டிப்பா பட் இந்த ஸ்டோரி முடியட்டும், அதுக்கப்புறமா நம்ம என்ன ஸ்டோரி படிக்கலாம்னு நம்ம டிசைட் பண்ணலாம். இட்ஸ் நைஸ். நீங்கள் எல்லாம் இந்த நாவலை ஃபாலோ பண்ணுறீங்க. இட்ஸ் ரியலி நைஸ். இதில் வர்ற கதாபாத்திரங்கள் எல்லாமே ராமாயணத்தை சார்ந்து இருந்தாலும் கதாசிரியர் கவிதா கேன் அவங்களுடைய இமேஜினேஷன் படித்தான் சில சீக்வன்ஸ்லாம் அமைச்சிருக்காங்க. ஸோ இதை யாரையும் ப்ரிஃபர் பண்ணுறதுக்காக இல்லை. ஓகே தென், I will catch you up tomorrow with the next chapter, Swayamvar. Till then, bye-bye. I'm Ramachandran. Love you all.